and Gemini is taking notes. How wonderful. We are comforted. And I just want to welcome everybody to the First Chapter podcast. And we are here today with Amaterasu Solar, who has the probably the most amazing name that I've heard in quite some time. And I love Amaterasu Solar. Did I get that right, my friend?
Yep, Amaterasu Solar.
Oh, I love that. That is so exotic. So I'm sure it's probably not the intention, but it is nevertheless. So as we get going here, because you and I didn't come together by the normal pathway that I normally meet people and authors. We came together because one of my associates was posting some things around, possibly about my Udemy course on becoming an author, the masterclass series, but I also might have been posting some articles and about the First Chapter podcast here, and you connected with us and asked if we were interested in interviewing you, and you just sound so intriguing. So why don't you go ahead and just share with our audience of millions of people what a little bit about yourself, so that we've got a little bit of background here.
Okay. Well, I'm a little old lady. I grew up in the
Now, no, we don't use
1960s.
we do not use the O word here. There's no need for profanity.
Oh dear. I'm a little elderly lady. Does that work?
I'll let
Anyway,
you get away with that this time.
anyway, I grew up in the 1960s and my father worked for Convair with I don't know if you know who Thomas Townsend Brown is,
That name
but
doesn't ring a
he
bell.
he was one of the major scientific type individuals back in the day, and he came on to Convair, and my dad worked with him on electrogravitics, which was producing gravity control and energy from the ether. And my dad would come home and tell us all about what they were getting. He was very excited about his work. And so he he would tell me what the world would look like when I grew up. He said cities would float, cars would fly, and we'd have all the energy we could use. And that was until about mid 1959, when one night he came home late, woke me up to tell me that he could not talk about his work anymore. They wanted it secret for now. But he assured me it was only for a little while, but he just couldn't talk about it. So basically it went into black projects. And I didn't think about much about that for quite a while. And then I got into banking and started learning about economics and all of that fun stuff. And it suddenly one day, I wanted to know why we used money. And, it always started with trade and barter and then moving into representational things. And I want to know why we use trade and barter. And it was Jeremy Rifkin's Entropy. I was reading that, and he said that all money is stored energy credits. And when I heard that, or read that, I should say, I went, aha, we are accounting for the energy we're adding into a system. And ever since then, I have been trying to point out that free energy means we don't need money. And I have met with a lot of uh, backlash. Um, a lot. I mean, I am presently very targeted. There's no doubt about that. I wake up in the morning with my skin burning from buzzing that I get all night long. which makes it difficult to sleep, but oh well, I do the best I can. I did at one point about 20 years ago, uh, I started, the job that I had went out of state and I didn't have a job. And so I started looking for work and I was applying to 35 to 50 jobs a day. And this went on for 10 years. And I even got interviews and I even got job offers, about not quite 100 job offers. And every single time I got a job offer, they would say, we'll get in touch with you with when and where to start and all of that. And then I'd hear nothing. So I'd call and I'd email and I'd never get a response. And, after about 7 years of that, I thought, maybe I'm being targeted. Someone's making sure I don't get a job. But I thought, well, maybe I'm just got grossly bad luck. But by the 10-year mark and over 120,000 job applications, I finally said, this is wasting my time. So, uh, that ever since then, I have been on this crusade, if you will, to let people know that if we get free energy out, we will be able to all of humanity access the abundance of our planet, which could support at least 1,000 times the number of people here now. I mean, for example, right now, we produce about 125% of all the food that we all could eat. And the reason there are people that are going hungry has mainly to do with the fact that they can't afford it. And so the food spoils and is thrown away. And that is about 30 to 40%. So you have people who are starving because they couldn't buy the food before it spoiled, things like that. And another thing that we might want to consider is the fact that presently the uh uh I call them the moneyed psychopaths in control on our planet by virtue of money. Uh they long ago, long ago, like in the 1600s, began putting our share of the wealth of our planet into trusts. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Sestui KV trusts,
No, tell us about
but
that.
well, they basically they take our share of the wealth and they put it into these trusts. And theoretically, there is a way to get it, but it seems to be that you have a narrow window, like 3 months after you turn either 18 or 21. It's still not clear. I've been researching for decades and I still don't have all the details.
How do you
But
spell that? I'm not really sure.
Cestui, Sestui, and then K is QUE, and then B is VIE. Sestui KV.
Okay, one more time, please. I just want to be sure I get this because it's breaking up just a little bit.
What, the spelling?
Yeah, just the spelling. I'm just very curious about that.
Okay. Cestui, Sestui, and then KQUE, and then VIE.
What
Sestui
does that mean?
KV.
That sounds Latin.
It is, and it means roughly of life. Um
Hmm,
I
interesting.
had I anyway, they basically made us commodities and put our wealth into their trusts with them as the trustees. So they control our wealth.
How is
And
that affected? How is that affected? What is the modicum of currency that and where is that trust held, do you know?
no, I've been looking for it and looking for it. And I do know that the Pope in 1666, an interesting year, was the one that began it. I know that much. And I'm not sure the whole setup that they've got going, but when we're born, the birth, not the certificate of birth, live birth, but the birth certificate is used to commodify us. And through that, they collect monies, and I'm not sure how that works, but it's put into our trusts, and we don't get to see it. But if we each had all the money, we'd be at least multimillionaires, at least, maybe even billionaires. But, you know, instead, they keep us as their wage slaves, tax slaves, uh, controlled by them and their money system. And this is one reason why I want to just eliminate the need for money because it will benefit humanity, which is who I work for.
Now, by money, what do you specifically mean?
Money is anything we use to account for the energy that we are adding into a system. And it can be goods and services with trade and barter. It can be anything representational. It can be shells. They used those way back when. Beads, that too. They even had sticks that they would notch and then split and give, one party uh, one half and the other party the other half so that if they came back together again, they could verify that they had the same amount. And of course, you have your metals, your paper, and your electronic bits these days. So this is all money. This is all things we use to prove that we added our energy, our fair share of energy into the system. That is the foundational function of money. And if there's free energy, we get to the point where why would we account for the energy when it's effectively infinite? The energy in the ether is so vast that I don't think we could ever tap it all out if there is a possibility even of doing that. It may be actually infinite.
How
So,
is this energy transmitted? Because you're correct. Energy is functionally infinite, but the issue is transmitting it and harming and harnessing it into productive means. How the energy you're referring to, how is it transmitted? How is it collected?
well, it is what maintains our material world. Um, I saw an image that was supposed to be of, I forget which particle. It might have been an electron, it might have been a proton. I don't remember. But I looked at it, and the person that showed it to me asked me what it looked like. And I said, it looks like a standing wave. And then it dawned on me everything is standing waves of energy fed by the energy in the ether. And with electrogravitics, and there are other methods for extracting the energy, but I'm not as familiar as I am with electrogravitics. Um, there's uh there's an effect that if you well, I go it's long and involved, but basically, uh, if you have a small negative uh, electrode and a large positive electrode and a nonlinear dielectric between them, when you pass electricity through them, they will tend to move towards the positive plate, which will move along with it and keep moving. And you'll wind up with, if you have a high enough K dielectric and enough voltage, you will see more energy in that thrust than is needed to push it along, which winds up, I have both a video and then an article that I made up um uh with what I said in the video. I'm not doing videos anymore. I'm just my arthritis has just made it impossible. Sad but true. Um, but basically, that's how you can extract the energy from the ether in one fashion. There are many, like I said, other people have come up with other creative ways, but I don't have the details on their stuff.
Let me just take a second for the audience. I want to insert something here.
Mhm.
I explained to you, Amaterasu, a few minutes ago that I just spent a year working on a national security related team, high security group, addressing some critical threats, existential threats to our electrical grid. And as part of that effort, we were introduced, one of our key participants was introduced and contacted by a gentleman in Texas who claimed to have created a device that created electricity.
Mhm.
But this was a situation where a certain amount of voltage went in and a great magnitude of more voltage came out the other end. And gets really weird. Okay, I get it. I get people are going to roll their eyes. Apparently, this came to him in a vision. This is not a technical guy.
Mhm.
And my cohort has contacted a couple of very, very elite scientists that work for one of the biggest investment um, groups, because they're always looking for whatever's coming out, and these scientists work for them, and then they go check these things out to see, is this real, what's going on, right? I mean, it
Mhm.
could be all kinds of things, could be all kinds of things.
Right.
And they made a trip to Texas, and they were able to, because this guy didn't want them to see what was inside the box. This is obviously you can imagine, and you shared a little bit of your background. This is a very, very, very dangerous situation
Yes.
when you figure out some way of upsetting the apple cart, if you will. Forgive the analogy. And but they were able to witness this, put test devices on it. They were able to um, affirm that this was actually performing and actually happening. There was not some sleight of hand, thing where there
Right.
was a wire hooked up to it somehow that wasn't accounted for. And they came away with that totally stunned. And I know this guy, worked with him for many years. That was the principal involved in that visit. And the people that he took with him that are among some of the brightest minds in the country. And we had several of these kinds of events where there are some devices, some inventions out there that are remarkable and stunning.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just want to let the audience know that I am the original skeptical practical guy, and most of the people that know me know that. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, let's, I'm really good about testing these things. I just want people to be aware that there are things out there on many different platforms and spectrums, if you want to call it, I don't know how else to say that, many different
Mhm.
projects that reflect incredible technology changes. And so I'm neither, in a position where I'm endorsing or contracting or contrasting what you're saying. I just want people to know these things are going on out there. So anyway, Amaterasu, please go ahead with your story. I'm sorry.
Okay, where was I? Um,
Well, you were talking about harvesting infinite energy out of the ether and
right,
devices
right.
and means of doing that.
And here's the thing, okay, there've been a lot of I'm sure you're aware that there have been a lot of people who said they had free energy that, uh, suddenly died, okay?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty clear that the moneyed psychopaths in control on our planet, by virtue of money, don't want free energy to be available to us,
One
you
of
know?
the principal people on this team that I was on, who was an inventor,
Mhm.
um, I mean, he is really gone underground because he's been threatened. He actually had people following him around. His daughter's life was threatened. I mean, it was a nasty, nasty situation, and that was part of what created so much of our issues in trying to deal with some of these devices. Is the people are terrified. They're inventors. They come up with something, and then it becomes pretty obvious. I know this sounds like some weird conspiracy theory thing. I apologize to everybody for that. I'm just letting you know that I'm just this ultimately practical, deliberate guy that's had this experience with people who are telling me firsthand, and on another realm, in another life, I actually had myself and my children threatened by something. So these things actually have, I got that phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning at my house saying, if you don't stop investigating this, I know where your kids go to school. Literally had
Yep.
that happen to me. So
Oh,
there it
yeah.
is.
No, the thing about it is that I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am a conspiracy analyst.
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
Because
You know what? That's basically what I say too.
yep, I I will say that I have encountered some things that I went, no, no, that's BS." But too many of the things, everything just fits too well, and the analysis is that this is indeed a conspiracy.
You know,
And
I'm gonna
it's
throw one more
not
thing.
like
Boy, we are really having some fun here, and I am. I'm gonna throw another thing out here. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I literally know at least three people that uh, have worked for the federal government or individuals at the highest places in the government to assassinate people. That's I know these folks. I know this goes on,
yep,
and uh, two of these people actually worked for Ronald Reagan in various capacities. So there you go with that.
yep.
Um, and I also say I don't really believe in conspiracies, as in a bunch of people meeting in a dark, smoky room. I'm a lot more of a believer in corruption and stupidity, and I've seen lots of that in my life. But I do think that there are individuals who have the power to contract with other individuals and get things done.
Oh, yeah,
Make people disappear, kill people. Like
yep.
I literally know people personally. So there you go. Okay, I apologize. I keep interrupting you, but I want to throw some of these things in
It's
because
okay.
there are people who are going to listen to this and go, "Oh boy, I roll." No, 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 no. Got to tell you, no
Well,
people.
I can tell you based on my experience as a targeted individual, I never believed that I would ever be targeted. Well, you know, between being unable to get a job and, you know, them zapping me somehow with, my friend here, I'm sheltering on his floor and he can feel the vibration. So it's not
Mhm.
like I'm just making this up. He feels them too. And so, it's like I lie down and to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden the bed will start vibrating. And it's like, oh no, really? Do we have to go through this again? I don't consent to this. Damn it. Well, doesn't seem to matter whether I consent or not. They're beneath the beasts, unethical, ghastly, wretched,
So
doing all.
you've written some things about this, correct? And you're going to share those with me so I can render an audio and turn it back to you for approval, right?
Okay, about which I
About what about this particular subject? I think this is fascinating. I think
what
people are going to hear this.
the targeted individual?
No, about the energy.
Oh, okay, yes. In fact, I sent you an email with my Electrogravitics article and my latest article, which is actually I took something I wrote back in 2016 and did a little tweaking here and there because I felt it was in need of that, but basically left it alone. And it goes into many of these things. So you'll have the
Cool.
electrogravitics and you'll have the look at how the monetary system is affected by
Have you
humanity.
ever read Jacques Jeannerin's book, The Debt Virus?
No, can't say that I have.
It is a really, really interesting work. He's a surgeon that was sat on a board at the Fed, and he was asked to investigate some monetary systems. As a that's what boards do. They tell somebody, "Hey, why don't you go check this out?" And then he wrote this book about how the fractional reserve system and fiat currencies actually work. And
Okay.
it's I mean it is it is really interesting and spot on. It's dead right on.
Oh, yeah.
Read
I'm
it,
sure
but
it is.
it's for anybody interested, it's called the Debt Virus. You can look it up on Amazon. Jacques Jeannerin, I think I may not be pronouncing it right, but that is probably one of the better books on monetary systems that I've ever read. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. I will say that from what you said, it sounds like he's spot on. I've been studying, like I said, I've been studying economics for like 50 years, and yeah,
me too.
they have put so many layers on top of the foundational function of money. It just blows my mind.
Well,
And the
one
fiat,
of the foundations of the premise is that all of these uh, central bank systems are debt-based currencies.
yes, they
And
are.
and and his point is, how do you ever pay off a debt when the only thing you can do to pay it off with is borrow money?
Yep.
And that's a good point. It's fractional reserve.
Yeah.
I could do this all day long,
Yeah. I'm sure.
but I need to draw this off, and I'm really excited to produce this. I'm going to cycle this back to
Okay.
you. But I just want to thank you for stepping forward and being willing to share your thoughts and your life with
Oh, most
us.
welcome. Thank you for
And
allowing me to do so.
let's keep in touch. And once I get this produced and get this out to the public, we might want to do this again. This is going to be this is the kind of thing that might be good for follow up. And Joe Rogan's going to be all jealous that he didn't get to you first. Maybe he did. Maybe you've been on his show. I don't know.
No, no, I did contact him. He had no interest, but then I get the impression that maybe I'm wrong, but I get the impression he's controlled off. So
I don't
I
know. It's the thing about
say,
all of those pundits is that they look at something and it's either monetizable or it's not. I mean that's pretty
yeah,
much.
exactly. And no, it seems most people are not interested in something that makes the point of monetization vanish.
Well, it's an interesting idea, and I shared with you, and I'll just drop this as we go out the door.
All
Um,
right.
I know that the crucial issue that is facing Western civilization is being talked about a little bit around in circles, but it is just there is no plan and no method of taking care of it, and that is the fertility crisis. We are
Mhm.
literally dying as a race, as a group of people, and
Well,
until we
yeah, I think that's done purposefully.
well, it could
I
be. I
think
you know I don't know the point that I make is whatever the reasons are, and everybody says, well, it's this, the one that really gets, now we're off subject here, but the one that gets me is, well, it's so expensive to raise kids these days. We live in a time where the standard of living is highest it's ever been in the humans, time.
mhm.
And
Yep.
yet we have elected to be infertile. And this is destroying. By the end of this century, virtually every society that's touched by Western civilization, and I'm talking China, North America, the EU, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, there aren't going to
Yep.
be any people there. They're gone. For every one in the United States today, for every 1,000 women that's alive today, by the end of this century, there will be 125. That's math and biology. You just can't
Wow.
argue it. Unless we stop and get this sorted out, uh, you know, and I don't know how it's going to happen. I do know ways it could be done. I mean, it's math and biology. It's not that tough. You're not going to get anybody to sign off on that plan. So they're not going to sign up for that class, as the saying goes. And so
Yep.
between some of these energy solution ideas, and I was front and center on those. I didn't know we were going to talk about that really when we got on here, but it's just interesting how these things get pulled together, like-minded and like-hearted people find each other. And it is interesting that I spent a year working on energy solution issues, and here you are coming to my podcast through a totally unrelated area, talking about
Yep.
similar thing. That's an amazing little coincidence, isn't it?
I think it's awesome.
I think the universe puts people together. I built business teams all over the world, and you met Shuja, I think, my cohort, and he's the one that first contacted, right? I think
Um,
on a platform. You were talking to him, and he's a
oh,
brilliant young man from Afghanistan,
right, right, right.
and his name is Shuja Hadari. And you know, I met him. He was on one of my teams. I put together a team of 15,000 people in 50 nations as a business expansion project for a company, and he was on that team. And I always told him we had every race, creed, color. There was only one group of people I would not allow on the teams, and those were Satanists. Every
Oh,
time we
yeah.
had every time we had them on the teams, they just destroy things. It's really bizarre. So I just got to a point where if they were part of a certain satanic group, I just nope, we don't allow it. But every other religion, race, creed, whatever, anything you can think of, we were on there. We all got along
Good.
great. We all got along great.
Any that promote ethics. That's my
I
mission.
used to I used to tell everybody, because we were so diverse, right? In
Mhm.
every way you can, because the 50 nations represented every culture and religion and faith and creed and language on earth, pretty much. And I used to tell everybody, we really only have a couple of rules here. One is we will love and respect each other. And two, we will be kind. Really, I mean, this is it. This is
Mhm.
all. Those two things really cover a lot of territory. And I used to say, get out there and start talking to people. Like-hearted people will find each other. And it's
Yep.
always been the case. Always been the case.
Well, I
My
you know, I'm a an advocate of the 3 laws of ethics, which are natural law expressed as the 3 things not to do. And, I figure if people adhere to those 3 laws, we will have virtually no social problems whatsoever. The
why don't you
problem is,
explain? Why don't you explain those? I love this
okay,
conversation.
number 1, do not willfully and without fully informed consent, hurt or kill the flesh of another. Number 2, do not willfully and without fully informed consent take or damage anything that does not belong to you alone. And 3, do not defraud another, which can only happen without fully informed consent.
Interesting.
And those actually are the foundation of common law.
Yep.
Okay. And the thing is that, one of the things I don't consent to is the legal system. That system is the pirate system. It came on land literally through the sewer system and usurped common law, and there are no ethics to be found. And in fact, there are no laws to be found. You'll note they're all, edicts and codes and
One of my
on and
one
on
of
and
my
on.
one of my favorite subjects is the discussion of the difference between laws and rule. And people talk about, oh, that's the law, that's law. No, a law cannot be broken. There are natural laws, the law of gravity, Newton's laws of motion, et cetera, et cetera. The law of supply and demand, laws of, increased
Right,
returns,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. And I made a career as a consultant out of going into organizations and looking at them through the lens of natural law. And it really is amazing. I think you'll appreciate this, that you go in and you find out that they say, well, this isn't working like it's planned. And I look at this, they go, well, it's actually working exactly like it's designed. It's just designed wrong for what you want outcome from it. And in most of these cases, they're actually trying to break a natural law by their processes.
right.
And I say that's not going to work. You can't do that.
Yeah. Well,
Um, so,
I just,
anyways, yeah, it's very
I,
very
I,
interesting. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify as far as the three laws of ethics go. Yeah, you can break those laws, but they are laws because if you ask anyone if it's okay to do those things to them, they will say no. Anyone.
Yeah,
And if they happen to say yes, because they're really, really freaky, they're consenting and not answering the question. So,
I think the point that you're making here, if you'll allow me, and you can tell me I'm full of it or not, is that those are statements that reflect on natural laws, like the law of reciprocity.
well, yeah,
And
yeah,
those things. So what you're doing is you're putting practical statements in place that will put people in alignment with those natural laws as they exist. Is that a fair thing to say?
well, yeah, I would say so. Like I said, I call them the laws of ethics because they were originally just called the three laws
Yep.
from way back when. I mean, I don't know how many centuries or millennia they've been recognized, but they were just called the three laws. And then you'd go out on the web and try to find the three laws. And of course, you get the robotics and you get the thermodynamics and you get on and on. You know what I mean?
Sure, 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 sure.
Uh,
Yeah, there's
and so
different.
I decided, what are they the three laws of? And ethics popped right up. And it's like, okay, they're the three laws of ethics. So I started calling them that. And it got to the point where if you type in the three laws of ethics in Google, uh, up would pop the information on the three laws of ethics. Well,
Interesting.
at some point, they decided they didn't want people to know the three laws of ethics because now if you type in the three laws of ethics, it'll bring up the three laws of robotics. It's
Well,
really
we could we
upsetting.
could we could do a YouTube video on the three laws of ethics and use SEO and drive traffic to it. It would pop right back up again. My
Maybe.
friend, I need to cut this short because we
Yeah,
have to fit
yeah,
this
it's
into a podcast,
getting
and it is
on.
fascinating. I will get this turned around, and I
Okay.
I want to thank you so much
Oh, thank
for
you.
reaching out to me because this has been a joy.
Thank you so much as well. I really enjoyed it.
We will talk soon. Thank you.
Mhm.